Zoom as well. So what's going on, everyone? Happy Monday afternoon, morning, depending on what time zone you're in. Welcome, everyone, to this week's session of Jake AMA with a guest, aka Jake and Friends. You know, Jake and it sounds so inviting, doesn't it, Devin? Didn't you hear the title and you're like, man, I feel like I'm going to like a very friendly gathering.
I actually did. I was like, it kind of reminds me of like a sales talk morning show, like something that's been going on for years. Everyone knows Jake, and then you get a friend depending the day or the week. So yeah,
that's right. That's the game, man. So look, man. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different things here. So for everyone joining, if you're joining the Zoom now, we've got 30, 40 plus folks in here. Just drop in. You know, if you're in the Zoom, drop in your role and your company. So help us to understand, we've got salespeople in here, executives in here, et cetera. Same thing for all my folks on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, start to drop some of your questions in the comment as well too. So as you go through it, again, we can see your name and your company. So just comment, what's up, everyone? Maybe throw out a peace sign, thumbs up or something on LinkedIn in the comments so we know that you're there. We've got, let's see, almost 40 people on Zoom. Got another 20, 30 on LinkedIn. So great, man. So look, Devin, so you and I met, man. I said 3 years ago. That was my guess. Is that right?
At least 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I convinced you to help like side hustle write copy, like for Scaled.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get into it a little bit later, but the way it actually happened was I was kind of set out to test myself. Like, hey, can I be a content creator? Like, do I have what it takes to make content alongside of
3 years ago
being a sales rep? And you were one of the first people I got in touch with. So yeah, I started side hustling for you, and I believe I wrote a ton of email cadences for some of your clients.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you came in, and then I think I wanted to. I just don't think we had the budget to bring you in full time, and I don't think like writing email copy was like your end all passion either. I think it's like
it was a seasonal thing.
It's like a nice like side hustle like to do on the side. If anybody's interested in that, by the way, though, we have tons and tons of clients. So if you are tuning in now and you like to hustle and write email copy, please hit me up. So we'd love to have you. So,
it's a good experience because you get, I'll continue plugging it since I went that route. One of the valuable traits was you get to test how quickly you can get into like their brand and, and understand their ICP and stuff. Because, you're working with a bunch of different clients. You kind of get to onboard rapidly a few different types of companies and then start writing really engaging copy. So that's what got me in the door. So there's
I think so too, man.
Social proof.
I mean, I think that's it, dude. It's like if you learn how to write really good email copy, and then we'll kind of get back to LinkedIn and everyone, right? But you have to be able to put yourself in the mind of the buyer. Like you have to do your research. You have to think about it. You have to know who are these people, what they're thinking about, et cetera. So I feel like to me, it is some of the best, we'll call it like training ground to just be in sales in general, because, it translates. Cause like, okay, if I know Devin is a VP of operations and so I'm writing this email. So then in my sales call, now I'm kind of testing that hypothesis. I'm like, okay, what about this? What about this? So for all of you out there, becoming a master is amazing. So, all right, everyone start dropping your questions here. We're going to go straight Q&A here. This is interesting. LinkedIn just released a new feature. It does not tell you how many people are on your live broadcast.
My sales call, and I'm kind of
so this is interesting. Because you guys do a LinkedIn Live too, don't you, Devin?
We did LinkedIn Live show for about 20 or so weeks, about a year ago when it first came out, maybe 2 years ago.
I remember that with Chris. Yeah. Chris was doing it, right?
Yep, we did Gong Labs Live, which was just taking our Gong data and going live. Yeah, so that was fun. And now we do it from time to time. We'll kind of do some different videos or some different content and just push it live.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's good. Yeah, I think it's like it's more of like about just like brand building, just finding ways to like connect with the audience versus anything else. So cool. All right, man. So we're gonna hop into it. So first, like I know one of the topic we want to talk about is producing content as someone on the front lines, or just basically producing content in general. So maybe let's talk a little bit about like your journey through this, right? Because you weren't an SVP of sales or something. You kind of came up to the sales ranks, and then really when you went to Gong is when you started to kind of amp this up. So For
Yeah.
for those out there listening, maybe tell a little bit about your journey into like producing content on LinkedIn. What finally clicked for you? Because I think that that's kind of what happens with people. It's like they're
Yeah.
really nervous. They want to put out stuff. They're nervous about it. They don't. And then something happens. And then they are like, oh, okay, I need to go do this. So I think just talking, maybe just a little bit about your journey. I'd love to hear maybe firsthand, kind of like your process going through this.
Yeah, definitely. So before I got into a content role specifically at Gong, which I've been doing for about a year,
Yeah.
I was in IC for 6 years. So you're right. Never ran a sales team, just sold a whole lot of software. And as I was going up through my career, I would kind of just like randomly have thoughts or ideas. You get that spark of what you think is creativity. Maybe it's just, could be post runner's high and you just think something's really good. But I would just get on LinkedIn and kind of put a post together and click send. I never was thinking about building a brand or a following or looking for likes. It was really just like, I don't know, this could be helpful or this is funny to me. And then I would realize like I got a surprising amount of engagement, like more, like a lot of people were commenting and people were liking it, which was to me just like, okay, like, and this was like 2 to 4 years ago before like, you were around like pushing the envelope of how to build brand before guys like Justin Welsh were doing this. Like this was, wild West days, I guess you could say. And so I think the day it clicked where I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this was someone introduced themselves. So it was like a mutual friend or a mutual colleague. Like, hey, this is my coworker, Devin. And they're like, hey, actually, I think I've seen your stuff on LinkedIn. And that, to me, that was just like bizarre because I was like, this is weird. So if you've ever met someone on LinkedIn and then met in person, it's kind of this like internet friendship thing that happens. And so that's when it came into like real life. I was like, oh, I might actually be kind of good at this. And again, I've been writing emails, I've made videos to sell, but this was kind of like taking that skill set and going one to many. And so, so I just kind of started doing a little bit more and more. I never had a game plan of like 10 posts a week or one post a week, even. It was just ad hoc as things came up. And then I would start to realize people in my sales process, like in my funnel, would start to mention the things that I had shared. And I wasn't even targeting them or anything. And so what it started to do for me was not initially generating new leads, but giving me something else to talk about. And I think building credibility with people who had met me, had a discovery call in a demo, and then they go, oh, and he's talking about these industry best practice or these sales best practices outside of. And so it kind of just helped, build relationships with people I was in the funnel with.
Yeah, so a lot of relationship building. And I think what you hit on there is absolutely key. So we've got some questions that are starting to pop in here. Again, everyone, this is for you, right? Devin and I, we sit here and talk shit about LinkedIn 24/7. So be very, very selfish. If you're on LinkedIn, do me a favor, just comment. I want to try to get a sense for how many people are joined live. So just give like a thumbs up in the comment, drop a question, something, so we can try to see how many people are there. Ashley, what's going on, Ashley? Glad to see you in the Zoom. So I think like let's talk a little bit about this. I think for a lot of people, the issue that they have is this getting over the hurdle of putting out content for the first time. There's a comment that actually we got on LinkedIn here. I'm just going to read this verbatim for you. And Shelby, if you can, do me a favor, just copy and paste the questions into the Google Doc for the different platforms. And then that way I can just like take a quick peek at it. So the question was the borderline annoying. Like, how do you, because I think this is what stops most people, Devin. I don't know how you feel about it, man. Is that like they're worried? Like, so are you covering things that are annoying or things that are best practices? I think that's kind of like an interesting thing. So are you covering things that are annoying? Well, Todd, like you be the judge, I guess is probably the answer. But I think that's the thing that stops people from posting is they're worried that this is just more noise. I don't really have anything to say of value, or I'm nervous of what I have to say, and I'm not going to put it out there. What was it for you? And maybe to dovetail on that, what do you think if you're someone who's like, man, look, I know my audience is on LinkedIn. I want to be more front and center. I'm nervous. So maybe a little bit about your story, and then what are the one or two things? So Todd, hopefully this is going to be a double whammy for you, man. We're going to get tactical. I'm going to give you two. Devin's going to give you two things you can do, and I'll try to add my 2 cents as well.
So I look at it maybe kind of in a unique way, which is whenever I'm in a room with people, right? Me and Jake are hanging out, and there's 2-3 other people in the room. I probably am not going to say anything unless I have something entertaining or interesting to say. Just like most conversations when you're at a cocktail party, a friend's birthday party, like whenever that, that natural lull occurs in a conversation in a group, I think it happens around like 9 to 12 minutes.
Yep.
I try to avoid that by having something to say in my like back pocket. It could be something that I've read that week, something interesting. But the point is, like, I'm not talking just to talk. I talk to say something of value. And I think it's the same process on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You become noise if you're just saying something because, oh, I've just seen Jake post something last week about cold calling. And then 5 other people are posting about this exact same portion of cold calling. So I'm going to add to that as well.
Right, right.
By then it's kind of noise because the point's been made, it's been echoed, and now you're kind of just, playing a replay. You're kind of just doing a rerun here. So I wouldn't say that's really that interesting. So to me, it's kind of like, yeah, if you don't have anything to say, it's okay not to say it. I go a week without saying something on LinkedIn because nothing really feels super relevant or super important. And then there's other weeks where I'm posting every single day because I have things that I think are either really relevant or really interesting. And then I can get into kind of the equation or the formula I use to create content as well.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that. So that's interesting because I have a little bit of a different take on that part of it, Devin. For me, just because you saw something in your feed doesn't mean that someone else saw it, and like, and if you, sure. I feel like if you got a take on it or maybe like a twist, I think it's okay. Like for me, I feel like, Todd's question is more about, are we going to try to talk about making people a thought leader? And my answer is yes. And I'm just going to tell you why. If I said, for some reason, because it's LinkedIn, we have like a negative little twist on it. But if I said, hey, I'm in Austin right now, right? So if I said, hey, Jake, in Austin, you're going to go to a bunch of networking events and build a name for yourself in your local community. As a sales leader or salesperson or CEO, people would immediately go like, yeah, of course, duh, no brainer, right? But for some reason, when we now apply that to digital, it takes on a whole new context. The context becomes ego, piling on. If you think about all LinkedIn is an aggregate of all those little side one-to-one conversations happening online, right? Yeah. And so I feel like, look, what every single seller should try to become a thought leader in their industry, period. If you don't know how to write, do video. If you don't know how to do video, do audio. There's a million different ways that you can do it, but just think of it. It's that local networking event that why wouldn't you? You sell into XYZ people. Right. One, if you don't like that industry that you're in, fucking leave, go somewhere else.
Right.
But you should want to talk about the space that you're in. You should want to talk to those people. So I really believe everyone should try to be a thought leader in their space. Even if you are 24, that you should want to know more about that one little niche thing you solve for than a lot of people. So that's my take on why I think more people and to kind of answer Todd's question is I feel like people are nervous because they're worried about retreading, but chances are people aren't seeing it really either, So I don't know, man. So if people are trying to produce content, what are your top tips? So Brown, let's say I'm just getting started and I see that, Devin, and I'm like, hey dude, oh man, Jake just posted about SDR. Oh man, look at Devin just posted about this. And I'm struggling here. You know what I'm saying? What should I do if I'm struggling? And I'm looking for what type of content I should put out there.
Yeah. I think what you said too is I think there's a step between wherever you are now starting and thought leadership. And I think the step is becoming an expert. So you have to have some sort of domain knowledge, just like you said in your local cybersecurity industry, right? You need to be an expert because then it's there's, the challenge if anyone here's in sales, have you ever had a marketing person or a product marketing person coming into a sales training? A lot of people's eyes glaze over because they're like, you're not really a sales expert. Why are you teaching me how to sell?
Yeah.
Not a personal experience. I'm sure we've all been there to a degree. I'm a marketer, so I can say that. Yeah. But it's the same thing, right? If an SDR is saying hey, here's how to be a good sales leader, and you've been in your role for 8 months, with all due respect, you're not an expert in this. Yeah, you shouldn't probably be speaking on those things. So what I would say is find what do you know really well. And you can be an SDR and be like, hey, I don't know that much, but hey, I know how to interview because I just interviewed my ass off to get this job. I can share what I know there. I can share how I onboarded quickly or how I hit my RAM quota. Everyone has something that they've done or something that they know really well. And that's what you can share. That's what you should be sharing first and foremost. And so I would say that, and if you want to share a story, hey guys, just started at LinkedIn, just finished my onboarding. I hit 142%.
That's it.
if you stop right there, it's kind of like, okay, congrats if I know you, but it's a little braggy, right?
Yeah,
Like if
for
I went
sure.
on every quarter and was like, crush the quota again, what's up, everyone? Everyone like, dude, Devin, you're a dick.
Right.
But if you're like, hey, I hit 142% of my onboarding quota, I got my teeth kicked in week one. Here's what that call looked like. I'm going to share tomorrow how I overcame that. Now you're starting to build this story of like, you know, Joe Schmo, whoever I'm talking about here is like, this guy is an up and comer. This guy is, you know, has resilience. And I like
That's
following that
right.
story. And then people will start to relate to those stories and be like, you know what, I'm actually learning from his story, not just hearing about this individual. So there's, you know, you kind of have to provide value, which is like some sort of insight or something they can take away.
That's it. And that's the easy part. So there's two things that Devin was talking about there. And this is for all of you who are thinking about it. That's it. Just pull from what you know. Somebody asked here, we actually had a question here, which is your thoughts on sharing personal experiences, moments on LinkedIn versus work-related content. So I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to adapt this. So I'm going to try to answer it. But what Devin said is just pull on your current experience. You guys are all talking to buyers 24/7. Hey, look, so again, even if I'm an SDR and I don't know everything, what I can do is share other people's knowledge. So like, let's say I'm an SDR and look, from interacting, and it's my first 3 months, I'm like, look, from interacting with over 25 VPs of operations, here are the top 2 trends that I'm seeing in industrial manufacturing.
Yep.
Post, you know, and that's what people don't get, that you don't have to be a producer of content today. You can just be an aggregator. And that's kind of my second tip is just go look at the ebooks or the blogs that either third party or companies are putting out. And what Devin said was key. Pull out the insights. Look, if you are in industrial manufacturing right now, here are the top 2 trends for logistics professionals in 2020. And you be the person sharing it. You don't have to rely on your company, et cetera. But that's the big issue I see. And that's the big issue is like, just borrow ideas from other people and make them your own. That's my like go-to strategy for sure.
I always use the same thing. There's if anyone's familiar with the book Influence by Robert Cialdini, he has like 8 principles of persuasion, and one of them is association. It's one of the sub principles. But like you can go your entire career and not actually have your own original, I did this research, I made this idea concept up. You can just pull things and share them, and people will be like, wow, Jake's always sharing this really interesting information. Jake must know a lot of information. I trust Jake, and therefore Jake is credible, which you do. I'm just using Jake because I'm looking at his face right now. It applies to anybody.
It's fine.
You just take things that other people said, but you want to put a spin on them, right? You're not just saying like, hey, here's an upfront contract that I just made up, because obviously, you know, that's been coined and people know that's not true. But if you say, hey, here's an upfront contract, which everyone, you know, in sales knows about, here's my take on it. Here's how I use it to book meetings. That's your own twist, right? So don't feel like you have to, you know, recreate the wheel. You can just spray paint it gold and ship it.
All right, there we go. All right, so we've got a bunch of questions coming in that are around this topic. So let's see, we had, let's see, who posted this? Todd posted this. Lee posted this. We've got a bunch of questions that are around turning content into leads, right? Mm-hmm. Turning content into dollars, turning content into money, right? And so I'll give my hot take on this first, and then I want to hear, Devin, how you guys think about it, because you're doing this from a marketing angle too. And I'll tell you what I love about Gong. And actually, Devin, I don't think I told you this. There's a piece of content you guys put out a week and a half ago that literally changed the way that I've been selling in the last 17 years. And this is just the type of person I am. I pivot on a dime, meaning like as soon as I hear something that's data and then my gut kind of validates it, I'm pivoting. So just as a call out, what it was, just so all of you know, the thing that he called out that I thought was so interesting was that the new call to action that works is not, it never was, let me know what next week looks like. I already knew that was garbage. I had been in the camp of, hey, let me know how next Tuesday at 4 looks, or Wednesday or Thursday afternoon or whatever it is. But the call to action that is, I think, double the number of positive responses. Tell me if I'm misquoting you here, Devin.
No, you're right. So far.
Was let me know if there's interest in XYZ and we can set up time to connect. And then to use date and time at the end of it. I didn't quite understand that part. But the whole point is like you're getting a yes to is there interest, not connect to the meeting. So I don't know if you want to share that really quick, this to get sidetracked. But I thought that was just so powerful, dude.
I was going to go there today too, because I think that's a key part of it. You want me to kind of break that down a little bit more?
Yeah, I'd love to. And then we'll get back to the question. But I think this is something, if you're in sales, I cannot tell you, Devin, just so you know, my whole org, we have immediately shifted how we train companies now.
I appreciate
immediately.
That. That's right.
It makes sense. It made intuitive sense to me too, that I'm like, oh, get the yes on the interest. Okay, cool. Anyway, yes. Tell more about it.
Yeah. So here's where it came from. So one of the most fun part of my job is we get to look at a lot of customer data, which is people, you have a few 100,000 users, I believe now, and they're doing calls, emails, and web conferencing. And so we get to take all this different user data, anonymize it, and start to look for different trends. And something that's always bugged me, and I'm always just curious, is like, I'm prospecting. I've done I found my VP of sales I want to reach out to. She's got 400 reps. I know if I can just get in the door, I'll have a great opportunity. You're writing the email and you're at the last line and you're like, hey, Sarah, how does Tuesday at 4 look? Or should I say, hey, are you interested in meeting? And kind of back off of the time ask, but see if there's interest. And I never knew this as a seller. So we ran analysis, I believe it was like 340,000 emails, and found that asking for interest has a 2x success rate to asking for time specifically on cold emails. Now, these are not response rates. These are booked meetings within 10 days, because I don't care about responses. I don't care about taking off your list and subscribe. And I don't care if you tell me this is a great meeting or this is a great email, but I don't want a meeting. Like, that doesn't matter either. I mean, in the case of today, it doesn't matter. And so when you're trying to get someone interested, like if you've written a good, personalized, accurate why you, why now email, what you want to do is lead with, hey, does it make sense to open a conversation around this? Jake, do you want to explore this conversation? Because that's the step between getting time. Now, if you just ask me, which happens to me all the time, hey, Devin, I'm working with these people. Do you want to meet? Do you have 30 minutes on Friday? The answer is I do have 30 minutes on Friday. But you haven't actually answered, will I give it to you?
That's right.
And what it does is there's loss aversion, right? Everyone has a lack of time. Everyone that you're prospecting in senior leadership does not have enough time. So when you ask for it immediately, their guard goes up and they don't want to lose something. They want to gain something. And so what you're doing, instead of asking for their resources, you're asking for interest. You want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Once they say yes, then you can go in for the booked meeting and say, perfect. Now that I know you're interested, let's talk Thursday at 4, and you still have your booked demo. Yeah. And I think the reason why behind it was people say, get right to the point, make it easy to say yes, but you're actually jumping the gun a little bit. You're getting there too quickly. And so what you want to do is say, yeah, is there interest here? And we can kind of touch on how you can use this in your content efforts as well to start generating leads.
All right. So that's a good one. So everyone, you heard it here. Becca went ahead and dropped in the link into all my Zoom folks. So go check that out. I'm going to copy and paste it in here for all my LinkedIn folks too. So take a quick peek at that. It's definitely worth the read. Again, like, this is just it, man. Data is just, it's like, as soon as I hear this stuff, I'm like, yep, cool. All right. I'm just going to immediately stop doing everything I did before. Because it also just makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. For me, like, as soon as I get something that validates it, it's like, that's like where I go. So long story short, let's get into the question here, right? So a lot of people are asking different flavors, the exact same question. And it is that idea, why am I producing content? Okay. Why am I producing content? When does it convert to the lead? And so I'll tell you my story first, and then, Devin, you've been on the sales side and marketing side, so I think you've seen it from a bunch of angles. So what happened for us at Skaled was in May of 2018, literally this exact time 2 years ago, we were putting out ebooks once a quarter, blog posts once a week. Like, we were doing what every good little B2B company is supposed to be doing, right? Putting out our ebooks, putting out our blogs. And we did this amazing ebook on GDPR. And long story short, we put out in social, we get, like 70 downloads or something like that. But it's like, what the, dude, you know how much work we put into this thing? You know how much work? And then interaction on social was like nothing. Because when you share links on LinkedIn, that's just like the pro tip. I think a lot of people know this at that point. Like, when you share links on LinkedIn, LinkedIn crushes your reach because it doesn't want you to send people off the site. So I had an epiphany. I was like, oh, people don't want to consume content this way anymore. People want short form content. People want sound bites. And this is May of 2018. And so we literally, for 1 year at Skaled, stopped producing blog posts. We produced 0 ebooks, 0 blog posts, and went all in on LinkedIn. We closed, that first year we probably closed close to $500,000. Last year we easily closed close to 1.5 million in organic LinkedIn deals. And I think for a lot of people, and I'll tell you some of the plays that we run too. I mean, look, we're super transparent about this, but if you can, and I'll talk about Sales Navigator, with Sales Navigator, you can look at the people that are actively posting on LinkedIn. You can run a list, you can see who's posting. What it really does is raise your credibility in getting meetings and in the middle funnel. So it's like, dude, I mean, literally we closed a 6-figure deal last year where literally the first call to CEO, she goes, Jake, I don't even know what you do, but I want to do business with you. And so that's where I think, questions like Todd's and Lee, she had a similar question, is it's really tough for me to tell you the ROI of one post. I can't tell you. I can't tell you the ROI of one post. What I can tell you is the cumulative ROI of adding value. And the other thing is it's adding value to your target audience. Look, I say this a lot. My target audience is CEOs, marketing, and sales leaders. So guess what I talk about? Leadership, sales, and marketing. I'm talking about finance. I'm talking about operation. That's not my wheelhouse. So all of you have to also be smart. Stop. If you're a seller or SDR, stop talking about sales unless you sell a sales tech. If you want to talk about sales 24/7, go work at Gong. Go work somewhere else where you can talk about sales 24/7. Talk to your audience. Produce content for your audience. So how you convert it to leads is just think of it as, Gary Vee has it, right? Jab, 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 right hook. Which is for us, and my team gets on my shit, my marketing and sales team. They're like, Jake, you need to be throwing more right hooks. But for me, like we've got like a basic, it's like once, and I put out 2 pieces of content every day on LinkedIn, right? Across platforms, we're putting out 25 to 30 pieces of content every single day, right? Wow. And the goal is that, and then about 1 in 10 is a right hook. 1 in 10 is, and for me, it's more like 1 in 40, which is why my team gets on my shit. They're like, Jake, ask for business or talk about what we do, please. Yeah. But I think for all of you out there, think about it that way, that you're trying to build. So the Todds, the Lees, the rest of you, you want to build people that want to hear you. And if you're constantly asking, you're taking withdrawals from the relationship that you got to build. So I would say, think of like a basic 5 to 1. 5 times you're giving value. 1 time you're saying, hey, and if you're in operations, here are the 3 things and why I think we can help. And I think that's it. So worry about building a community around you, of being like Devin gave that great example of like, that person is the expert. Do that. And then the community starts interacting. And then as long as you're not always asking, then you can toss in your ask much easier. And so I get it. For me as a sales leader, I tell this story all the time. If February 2018 Jake heard this Jake talk right now, he would punch him in the mouth. He'd be like, dude, where are the leads? Where are the calls to action? And that's just not how people interact on LinkedIn. And so the value of building a community, not brand, community, that's how you got to think about it. I am trying to build a community around my content for this audience, not build a selfish brand. I want to be the go-to guy in Austin for cybersecurity. Think of it like that. And then, it's tough to always monetize. You'll track opportunities created. It's very simple with all of our clients, again, track opportunities created. But that's my process. And that's kind of how I arrived at this. And you should track it in Salesforce, et cetera. It's just not always a 1-to-1 of a post and leads, which is very marketing, marketing is like, does not compute.
Well, and that's where it comes from, right? Is like, okay, we're going to make this ebook. We're going to spend, $10,000 in resources and promotion. And because you're putting a right hook out there, you need it to land. Like you have to get, 1,000 downloads to make it worthwhile. So that mindset has transferred to LinkedIn when you're like, I'm going to write a post. And even if it only takes me 10 minutes or 20 minutes, I should get something back on this, input output basis. But like you said, it does not work that way. And the other thing I think people try is like, here's one or 2 sentences of what my company does in like a marketing video, and then gets 2 or 3 likes, and people are wondering like why people aren't hitting me up to take a demo because I shared this sweet product video. And I get it, right? It's like marketing gave you this video. They probably told you to share it on LinkedIn, and you did share it on LinkedIn, but you didn't put it in a way where people are going to respond to you. Like I've been doing this for a year. I can promise you it's very rare that someone sees a post, hits me up and goes, Devin, can I speak to someone on your team? Like it doesn't work that immediately. Like it's not like a 1-to-1, right? And so just like you said, Jake, it's like you're building it up. And then when you go for an ask, it makes a lot of sense because you've been building credibility and you haven't conditioned people that read your content that it's a give all the time, right? So it's pull versus push. You want to pull people in with content that's relevant and insightful, instead of pushing your product at them and then wondering why they're not receptive.
That's right. And I think it's just like, look, just how HubSpot invented this play that most B2B marketers are still running. And this play, guys, this play is 10 years old now.
Yep.
The fucking play was you create this pillar content, you chop it up in a bunch of stuff, you chop it into social, you capture a bunch of email addresses. Guys, that is an old school play. I'm telling you, an ebook download, guys, is not a fucking MQL. If that's your one takeaway from this, that you stop looking at an ebook download as a marketing qualified lead, then I've done my job. But you got to like, this new play is a mix of the things that we can track in data coupled with brand. Right. Guys, brand what's the value of Coca-Cola having a brand? Why is, Dairy Queen active on Twitter? Like, guys, like we forgot in B2B that marketing is two sides of the same coin. There's demand gen and there's brand. We've totally thrown out this concept of brand. And now the beautiful part is all of you, because of LinkedIn, can build your own brand in your space. And there's value there that again, to your point, Devin, isn't always one-to-one. Like I put one post, I get one lead. It can be, it's that middle funnel. We closed a deal a week and a half ago, $80K deal closed in 3 days. 3 days because Jake, we want to work with you. And guys, I put in the fucking work. I'm posting on LinkedIn every single day. And the posts that you see from me, at least 92% of those are me. 90 to the other are like some reshare of like a video that we did from like, pre-COVID.
Sure.
The guys you think I'm a CEO? I've got a 25-person company, right? I've been through all this shit. I take time to post on LinkedIn 2 times per day for a reason. I'm not stupid, right? I'm not doing this to be famous. I'm doing this to drive, business. I like to build community too. I've aligned my passions with the things I like to talk about, which makes life exponentially
That's what we started with.
which is that. So, all right. So we got some more questions in here, man. I like this one from Natalie. Natalie Burge. What's up, Natalie? She's here in Austin too. So she works in a highly regulated industry, B2B insurance. And, sales reps not feeling comfortable demonstrating thought leadership around like regulations. So any thoughts on how to navigate LinkedIn when you work in a highly regulated industry? This is a good one.
I think here's what my equation or my kind of play is, and we can argue over it, Jake, or maybe I'm just wrong, frankly, and everyone in the comments will burn me. But I think what I tell salespeople to do is like, you actually know your business or the business probably more than not the CEO, because there's some senior leaders that know it well, but like you're the one talking to clients all day, hearing what they like, hearing what they don't like. And so what I say is don't try to boil the ocean. Pick a micro problem, like a small, like a big problem, but like zoom into it and just describe it. Describe it in depth into a way where it's like, wow, even though my product can solve 25 different cybersecurity things, today I'm going to focus on this one or this one regulatory thing. And if you share a problem of, hey, I was talking to this CIO and this regulation thing came up, they got into a bind and they were able to solve it. And here's how. Obviously, you can solve that problem or you wouldn't be talking about it. People know. You don't have to say your company name. They will know that you are the one who solved that problem if you kind of, massage it in that way. You don't need to jam it like, and now you should download this, or, now you should sign up for a demo because I can do the same for you. You don't have to. If you market the problem, people will assume you have the solution. Yeah. And so the reason why it's valuable is if you take that one little problem and you make it into a little story, into a post, other people in that community will see that. They'll either have had that problem specifically and learn from it, or they'll put it in their bank and go, you know what, I haven't ran into that personally, but I could understand that problem. And now I think that this individual in this company has some more credibility in that realm. And nothing that they've done for the salesperson is do anything except for talk about what they've been doing for their 9 to 5 all week anyway, which is talking about problems and solving problems for this specific audience.
That's it. I think that plays for everybody too. I think that's something, Natalie, that they can easily do and don't have to worry about it. They can also, again, think about taking from content that your company's already produced and just packaging it a little bit differently. So they're not having to go through it. So I want to put a challenge out there to everyone. And the cool part is, Devin, we got a shit ton of questions. So we got about a little over 120 people now live. Between Zoom and LinkedIn, which is great. So drop your top LinkedIn tips in here. Drop them in, whether it's the chat or the comments, drop in your top tips. My commitment to you is that my team, what we'll do is we'll aggregate some of these top tips too, and we'll maybe do an article on it in the next week or so. So we'll crowdsource something and share it back. So a couple of questions I think are important for some folks here, because there's actually some like really good ones. How do you get people not just to read your content, but stay actively engaged, like, comment, share? So that's what everybody wants, right? Nobody wants to just, it's so funny. So we do a lot of work with sales and marketing organizations about how to get better engagement on LinkedIn. And one of the strategies that we talk about is how to use Sales Navigator to pinpoint people that are actively posting. And Devin, it is amazing how most executives, and I'm talking 80, 90%, guess how many comments they get on their posts?
I would say like none. Yeah.
Zero. That is the go-to play for us, by the way. That's like the master sequence that we're running for all of our fucking clients right now. If it starts heavy LinkedIn, the very first thing, you build a list, you go to the 365 and you start commenting and liking, right? Then you wait 4 days, you slow play it. You don't like more than one post, then comment, like again, then slow play 4 days, cold call.
Interesting.
They're getting zero comments. You don't think after you comment twice on someone's post, they're like, who's Devin Reed?
Yeah.
Like, immediately. Right?
They click their profile. They're like, who is this guy? Why do they like my stuff? Yeah.
So these executives, so what smart. I want all of you to know, and this is from someone anonymously, all of you who are producing content, getting zero comments or engagements. All right. So I want you to think about that. C-level executives with 25, 30 years of experience get 0 to 1 comment, and 9 times out of 10, 9.999 times out of 10, it's their employees.
I was gonna say it's someone on their team.
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
that reports to them.
So if executives can't get traction, how does a salesperson? We've talked about sharing what you know, sharing things that are relatable. Those are great pieces of advice. What else, man? What are your go-to tips on not how to just pander to the algorithm? That's a whole other question, but how to get engagement and people to get into your posts.
So there's 3 elements that I use. Now, whenever this is more for a blog post or something long form, but it applies to short form, which we'll talk about LinkedIn posting. And you can actually get a little lazy and cut some of the corners on this, which is great for fast acting folks. So the formula I use is that the content has to be relevant, insightful, and actionable. Relevant meaning this is a problem or a topic that I care about right now. And here's a good example of that. Jake, 1 through 10, how interested are you in the weather today in Austin?
I am about a 3.
3. So you don't care about the weather, but that's fine. How interested are you right now if I showed you last Monday's weather in Austin?
0.
Exactly. You don't care about that topic unless it's relevant right now and today. So my point is, find a topic and find something that's super applicable to your audience, whether it's because time of the month, it's it's the end of the month. Hey, that's where salespeople are closing deals. I'm going to post articles or information on that topic because I know it's top of mind for them. Insightful goes back to what we had talked about earlier. If you've read it somewhere else, either put your own spin on it, share that, give them credit, and put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
Or come up with your hot take. A thought leader is someone who changes the way people think or view or do things. So present your own way of going about cold calling, for example, or whatever it is that you guys do, and say, hey, here's my spin on it. It's insightful if I call it the eyebrow raise test. You ever read something in like the CTA doc you said, Jake, and you're like, oh, shit, this is interesting. If your eyebrows raise up, it's interesting. You're on the right track for insightful. And then actionable, even if you're a CEO like Jake, or if you're an SDR and anyone in between, everyone wants tactical advice that they can take home and use today. So don't try to go too high level and share all these theoretical things. Give someone, hey, here's the problem. Here's 3 things you can do right now.
Yeah.
Open your cold call this way. I'm just use cold call. I don't know why I'm sticking with that
fine.
one, but
that's good.
It doesn't matter, anything. And say, here's 3 things you can do today. And if you want to start a conversation, put at the bottom, just like Jake did, hey, what are you guys doing for cold calling today? So that way you're not trying to come across as this know-it-all, hoping just to get likes if people agree with you, but you want to actually start a conversation with people, right? Just like if you were on the expo or conference floor, someone comes up to you and goes, hey, Jay, what are you doing to post on LinkedIn? Well, I do 1, I do 2, and I do 3. What do you do? Oh, well, me, I haven't even done any of these things, right? But you're starting a conversation. You'll do the same thing in the comment section if you just propose something that's insightful and actionable, and then ask for feedback or ask how other people are doing it as well.
Yeah, I think that that's a really easy formula, is that, again, just be relevant, right? I think is what it is. And the reason that most people's posts, so another question, we had a question here about like the LinkedIn algorithm, for example. is that, again, the LinkedIn algorithm, there's some basic things. When you share a third-party link, LinkedIn's not a fan. It's going to penalize your content. It's not going to be seen by a lot of people because LinkedIn wants to keep people on LinkedIn. So if you're sharing posts, if you're just resharing content or resharing posts with nothing, that's why you're not getting any engagement. It's the two are directly correlated. And so you've got to have some initial, and then most people that reshare, Devin, too, just put like interesting world from the world of future work. It's like, there's no value there. Now, when I got to go click and read this article, man, come on, dude, I ain't reading this article, man.
And unfortunately, and I tested this last week, LinkedIn will even, it will penalize you even if you use LinkedIn links. If it's like to another Pulse article and you put it in there, it's like, no care, you got to stay on the feed. So yeah, unfortunately, folks, put the link in the comments if you're thinking like people are doing it to kind of game the algorithm. It is true, but the level of penalization you get on a post for putting a link is astronomical. It's like 80, you get like 5% of the typical views. And it's not like, people say, oh, you're doing it to get views. Yeah, I'm writing content to get people to see it. If I can avoid stepping into a pothole that's going to kill my reach, of course I'm going to put it into the link or the link in the comment.
Why wouldn't you? That's exactly it. You wrote the piece of content for the right audience to see it. So we're actually, and this is a good time. So Shelby, you can drop the link. So next Monday, I'm doing an AMA. So we have a data partnership. And so we've analyzed data from over 1,400 posts. Devin, you're going to appreciate this. And so We're going to basically break down everything that we've learned. So we basically pulled 1,400 posts over the last, 4.5 months. And we're going to basically tear it down. So we're going to tell you all the different correlations, walk through the data live. So make sure to join us for that. We'll put a link to the event in the comments on both platforms.
Sure.
So I think that's the only other thing I would say is, so some people have questions here about tagging people, hashtags. Yes, tag people. It's helpful. No, don't tag more than a few. I think we've consistently seen that. Devin, I don't know what you've seen. 3. That's what we say.
I'll do 3. I also don't tag people that aren't going to respond.
Yeah.
You probably had it happen, and I love everyone on LinkedIn to a degree, but if someone writes a post and then tags Jake, Devin, Katie, Justin, you're trying to get all these people who have a following or just a bunch of people that don't.
Right.
It just looks like a reach, and it's don't tag people unless you think they're relevant to the conversation. I talked to @Jake last week, and this is what we talked about. That's cool. Right. Don't try to just tag a bunch of people. And then hashtags, I don't really have too much experience. I only use 1 or 2 from time to time, but I've heard don't use more than 3.
That's it.
Which I think, again, it kind of waters down the point. No content is so relevant that 10 hashtags are, applicable.
and the key is here's what I want all of you to do in LinkedIn. Just search the hashtag. You can type in hashtag, whatever thing you're doing, and you'll see. And guys, if it has 5 followers, you can probably not do it. So what we're testing too, so this is a good call. Then I'll just give you guys some insights is we're starting to do more posts without hashtags. What we're seeing is that there's almost an authenticity lift. Using hashtags, there's something in our brain that we know when that person uses a hashtag, we're trying to get some juice here. And in our brain, we naturally are I don't want to give them the juice or whatever. So so you'll see.
You're getting marketed to. You don't want to be marketed to.
Yeah, my top post from last week, we didn't need no emojis, no hashtags, straight. That's another person who asked about content or image. Dude, I'm going to tell you, same thing. Text only posts. LinkedIn by almost I'll go look at the exact numbers. I want to say it's 3 or 4 to 1 outperforms any other type of content. The best image content, the best video content, the best whatever, it outperforms. Now where images are interesting, and Devin, where we're starting to test, I don't know if you guys, so LinkedIn did a major release on May 12th about dwell time. And dwell time is a new wrinkle to the algorithm, which basically says, it's why you see all this, what's called broetry, which is these long posts that do this, because
I haven't heard that.
You haven't heard that? Funny. Yeah, it's broetry. So basically it's like sales bros just waxing poetically about, the hustle. So, it's,
oh my God, that's so good.
So long story short, what LinkedIn's looking at is how long are people chilling on it and thinking through the content. And then it factors in another thing, which is why actually getting people to reshare your post, even though it's not great, is important. It also factors in the click dwell time of when someone clicks into the article, whether they click off the feed or click off a reshare, and then the dwell time of that as well too. It's the May 12th release. If you type in Google developer notes May 12th, you guys can read more about dwell time. But so what we're trying to do with images now that we're experimenting with is doing text-based images. So text post and then image with like top 10 lists and things like that to see if that helps with dwell time.
The same as you can do is with the slide posts. You can put like 10 tips and 10 slides, you know, like upload a deck almost. And that way people, I think you get one for click. And then I think like you said, you get one for the dwell time. So yeah, if you start seeing that as well.
Yeah. Emojis. Yeah. We use emojis. A lot of our top performing posts have emojis in them, but again, we also don't use emojis, right? Post versus article. I think you and I both said both.
Post. You're going to get more bang for your buck. I tell you, there's two parts of my personal job, like my role, which is like I write blogs, that the CTA one you talked about. Those take hours of work to like analyze data, come up with a hypothesis, write a story, get graphics made. Now they serve a different purpose and they're very successful, but I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to have put that much time into it and like barely crack 1,000 likes and then write a post off the cuff after a run where I'm like, you know what, here's how I'd write a cold email. It takes me 8 minutes, less than that, 4 minutes, and it gets like 1,000 likes and 100,000 views. And so it's like, it is frustrating, but I promise you folks, I've written enough to tell you, if you just write text, don't worry about links, don't worry about pictures, don't worry about any of that stuff, you will get the most reach and the most engagement. It's just the way of the LinkedIn world today.
That's right. Yeah. Than probably you've ever gotten before. So this is interesting. Lydia Sugarman, her question was about a connection request strategy. So let's spend some time talking about connect request strategy. I've got some very specific ideas on this. A guy got a connection request, said, pitched her business in a note and said, if of no interest, just ignore her invitation. So I did. Thoughts? So the pitch was, if this isn't interesting, just ignore.
I mean, I have a weird take on these, to be honest. I think it's like overthinking it. If I'm being super honest, I feel like it's really overthinking it. I accept most people that just ask. If you just send me the request, I'm just going to accept you. I don't have time, nor do I care enough to be like, you know what? Jake Dunlap, VP of sales at what company is this? Oh, you know what? That's in the DC area and I don't have the DC area. So no, I'm going to decline. It's fine. Yeah. And then the ones that you get that are with notes are usually like, they don't really add anything. It's like, you know, if it's the only thing I like is like, hey, I saw you at an event or we met and I want to add you. That's fine. I get it. You're connecting a dot. But if it's like anything else that feels canned, it's like, just send the invite. Who cares if it's canned? Like, you know, don't say anything at all. The only one I don't accept is recruiters, because I know I accept. And then 2 seconds later, I get an email asking if I want to jump on a call because I'm open to opportunities. So I love recruiters, but no, that's the one that drives me crazy. Yeah. For me, it's like, the Morgan Ingram and I talked about this and he's done some analysis around this. And it's like the copy and paste message gets a lower positive reply rate than no message. And so it's like either go all in or don't, right? Like it's like either go full custom, but I can connect with Sales Navigator. I can connect with 82 people in 12 minutes, 82 people in 12 minutes, or I can write 4 custom. Right. The chances that my network of relevant people isn't exponentially larger than yours in 2 weeks and then 4 weeks, and then it multiplies is exponentially higher. So long story short, there's a lot of different things you can do. I'm a big fan of no connection requests unless it's a super, super senior person. You really want them. And then like Devin said, go hyper customize. Like I saw these 3 posts. I saw yours talk here. I'm really into it and I'm going to enjoy following you. Then the key is always slow play it. The only times that I've seen to not DM someone right after is there's one. I'll give you a couple examples. One, there's a new filter on LinkedIn. If you go to you got to scroll to it in the sales nav bar. It says lead follows your company. Those people, you should immediately DM. And if you can't get a meeting with someone who follows your company, you suck. You suck at sales. You suck at sales. If a lead is following your company, you know, like that. And then the other one is change jobs in the last 90 days. Look, when someone's in their first 30 days of a job change, they're not doing anything. They're just understanding. Day 60, they're starting to think about it. Day 90, they're starting to make changes. And so I'm okay with like more of a direct call to action if there's like that, hey, I know you just started. If this is of interest right now, Devin, I'm stealing your stuff now.
You know,
Yeah.
like you just started, so you're probably not looking at anything now, but probably by about day 45, day 60, you're going to start. And if this topic is of interest, right, let me know and we can have a deeper conversation if this is going to be a priority for you in the next 3 quarters, you know, something like that. So
you see the earthquake on my side. This LinkedIn Live has crushed my laptop battery, so I'm trying to get plugged in here.
well, we're
chatting.
doing double. So we've got 2 cameras, two mics. And then Shelby, do me a favor. So also share the link for the event, the LinkedIn event too. So if people want to join live on LinkedIn, they can join live on LinkedIn too. So Shelby, if you can share both in both LinkedIn and Zoom, the Zoom sign up and the event, so people can sign up both if they want. Sometimes LinkedIn's just easier for people just because they're hopping on, or the Zoom can be, you know, it's like you're already native, you're in it. So, all right. So we've got time here for a few more questions. So I'll try to take some of these. We've had some good ones today. Okay. So let's talk about this one. Brian Barron. What's up, Brian? Brian asks about selling yourself as an employee, right? So Devin, just, you know, your video cut out, just as an FYI.
I'll be on Zoom. Which one? I see you on the live one. I'll check Zoom for you.
That's all good. Just let me know when it comes back. So his question was around, there you go, you're back. All right, so how does this apply if you're a job seeker? All right, you're a job seeker. You know, you're trying to sell yourself to employers. What do you think?
I've honestly never done it. So I'll be honest and say I haven't done that before. I think the way, and I've seen it done though. Like I've seen these posts. I would say the more important thing is, it's kind of like when people have their LinkedIn profile and it's like in the third person about how amazing you are, but everyone knows that you wrote it. Right. Scaled businesses, hired multiple, you know, hundreds of people, Excel quota. Congrats. I'm actually very happy for you that you're successful. Again, go back to the cocktail party scenario. If I walk up and shake Jake's hand, I'm like, hey, I'm Devin Reed and I've done this and I've done that right away. All you don't remember is that Devin is a pompous dick, right? Like that's probably what you're going to leave with. And that's the same thing that happens on LinkedIn, right? So it's like, come across as like, yeah, you can share what you're good at and what you've accomplished, but do it in a way where you're more of like in an interview, which is what are the problems that you're trying to solve for companies? Why specifically would they want to hire you? And again, kind of comes up to like building that brand. If you've been posting for a long time about cybersecurity or sales, and then all of a sudden you're on the market, you become a lot more valuable because people know what you're about. You've proven expertise and dedication to something. And now it's like, oh, a hot, you know, like a good draft pick just became available. I'm going to swoop this up before he's gone.
Yeah, that's it. So I think that's what I would still be talking about, how I'm a student of sales. So I would be sharing insights into like, look, here are the 4 things I learned in selling into healthcare, the 4 things I learned selling into insurance, and like, here are the nuances of it. The other thing is that you're going to have to get tactical. I'm telling you, man, the free agent market for salespeople right now is at an all-time high, right? It's probably never been like this. And so you're going to have to stand out. You know, applying to a job is, in my opinion, a waste of time. You need to go find the hiring manager and DM the hiring manager and tell them in a pitch. So I did a post about this, Devin. I've got it right here. This is what I did to get my job at the Coyotes. I created a manuscript that said how to sell hockey in the Arizona sun. This thing, it's funny to read back at 25 what I thought great sales was. But dude, I had some techniques, man. I had read Brian Tracy. Like, I'm like, damn, dude, like that's pretty good. But my point is, like, you put if in the pitch to the employer, right, you put in like, hey, if I was going to talk about Gong in the Pacific Northwest, here's how I would position it and here's why. That's how you got to stand out right now. You need to put that in there. So you could talk about, you know, in your profile, how you put together getting to know a company. Look, here's what my first 30, oh, dude, I'm just coming up with this on the fly. This is fucking great. Like, here's what I'm going to do for your org. Like in my summary, my first 30 days at your company, boom, 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 boom. My next 30 days, boom, 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 boom. I would put in the type. And so then I get to see what this person does. Cause I've never seen a LinkedIn profile of a seller who didn't hit 125% of quota, right?
No one's posting that they hit 90% in Q4.
Yeah. Tough quarter. No, dude, you just actually, that's what you always hit. So, all right. So we got time for one more here. So that's it, man. I would show as a hiring leader, and maybe you're not looking for a sales job, whatever the job is, I would show them that I know how to get up to speed and produce quickly. And I know what I'm talking about. And I would use LinkedIn to be that forum. So
while you get the next question, something someone did on to get hired at Gong was they took personal ads out. Like they went to LinkedIn and bought ads and targeted our senior leadership team. and they
I
put
love this
their
person.
face and
I
it
love
put
this
something to
person.
the effect of like your next hire question mark, like John Doe, head designer, whatever his like thing was. He was a sales guy though. And our CMO, it hit his desk, even though he doesn't hire salespeople, but he shared it to the entire company, tied their careers. Like, this dude has to get a call. Like, we have to call
Has
this
to.
guy. You have to do that.
100%.
So think of things like that to do, of like break through the noise and just be like, okay, if I was going to be hired, like if I was hiring someone, what could they do to just thoroughly impress me and just break apart from the pack? Those things will get you in the front door, guaranteed.
That's
Then
it.
it's up to you to, that's up to you to close from there though.
But you got to put in the work. What you're talking about in that example I gave, that requires work. If you want to, I did a post about this too. Like if you want to get your dream job, everybody else wants the same damn job too. So what are you going to do to stand out? And I feel like people, you have to realize, especially in this market, if you don't act like, you don't show me that you're interested, et cetera. I love that he bought ads, man. That's just genius, dude.
Dude, that's crazy.
All right. So here's one, Alex Holt. I worry about imposter syndrome, right? That, hey, I was in this one industry. Now I'm in a new industry. So I don't know about a lot. What are ways to validate your content? So like, how would you, so like, maybe this is something you don't know a ton about, but you're like, I want to try to produce content for this new industry. How would you go about validating it? And then we'll try to take one more question after this, and then we'll wrap it up.
Go back to your journey, go back to what you've learned. At First Friday, maybe it's your first week. I've been in cybersecurity for 5 days. Here's what I've learned. Number one, I don't know a damn thing. 2, this thing is a lot harder than I thought, right? Like you can be super honest about it. When people tell me, like, ask me about marketing, I've been in marketing for a year. I tell people that all the time. Ask me about sales and I'll probably give you a better answer, but I can tell you what I know about marketing in my 1 year. Call the elephant in the room. Don't feel like you have to be bigger than you are. It's okay to just say what you know and what you don't know. But again, it goes back to what did you learn? Then just like you said, Jake, in the first 30 days for your job, and in the first 30 days into your job, what did you learn? How the number one problem that you've seen people run into? Hey, I joined cybersecurity because I thought hackers were the number one thing. Finds out that's actually number 7. People, that's not as big of a thing as you think, but it's number 1, 2, and 3. This is what people are talking about.
Yep.
There you go. Like, and then you can just build and go from there. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with educating yourself and just earning your stripes on it as you go.
Yeah, that's it. And I think a lot of this is sharing the journey. If you just share, like, look, here is how talent acquisition is like healthcare, which is kind of like her or his transition. So, all right, last question here. Let me see. Posting. All right. So I don't know. This one's okay. It's fairly easy, but maybe it's a good one to end on here. So again, everyone, like real quick before we wrap up, just big thank you to everyone. Thank you, Devin, by the way.
Yeah,
thank you, man. It's good to catch up, dude.
Always.
What's the piece of content that we're going to work on that I emailed you about? What's that?
It's on the list still. There's just a list of things I got to get through, but it's features versus tactical versus strategic talk tracks. And which ones work. So it's in the, it's rising the ranks, which hopefully we'll get to it sooner than later. But yeah, cool. It came from you, and then it came from a marketer on my team, and like a couple other sources. People were starting to ask slightly different ways, but dude, this is gonna be great.
Good. So again, everyone, thank you. If you guys don't follow Devin, we will definitely put his link, if you can, Shelby, put his link in the comments here. Follow Devin. Devin shares a lot of great insights. This is the team at Gong. Candidly, and Devin, kudos to you guys. When people ask me, what are companies that I think do a good job on LinkedIn of actually producing content, Gong is what I point to, because Gong is one of the only brands that actually produces text-only posts and does other things, because like they're actually paying. I feel like Gong is one of those companies that, one, has great content and is paying attention to what's happening. So again, guys, sign up so make sure you don't miss out on anything else. We're dropping a few links in the comments here. So last question, LinkedIn on the weekends. All right. Thoughts on LinkedIn and on the weekends, and what your thoughts are around posting on the weekends, not posting on the weekends.
Yeah, this is a good one. So at the end of the day, the quality of your content is what matters most. I will also say that there are simply more people on the platform at certain days and times. So it's up to you how much of a science take you want to do. We used to only go Monday through Friday, both personally and at Gong. We now do a Saturday post. Yep. I don't think there's anything wrong going twice on Saturday, one on Sunday. If that's what you want to do, I would just probably be mindful. The people on the platform are in a different mindset and probably a little different place mentally on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, you're probably doing it out of habit. Maybe you're working a little bit in the morning. Sunday night, you're prepping for the week. So I would probably tailor your message to that. Like, hey guys, I'm it's 4 p.m. on the West Coast. I'm getting teed up for the week. Here's 3 things that I like to do. What are you guys up to?
Yeah.
Or, hey, that's, I think, another good time to share like things you found interesting. Hey, finally got time to caught up on some reading, saw this cool article, thought I'd, 1, 2 reasons why it's interesting, and share. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's some data, I can't remember where, that Saturday is growing in terms of users. And then Sunday, I think, is still the least most common day, but there's still things going on.
That's right, man. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, our strategy is I post almost exactly 2 times and then 1, and we've seen similar. The good part is there's just less people producing. So, I would encourage you to share, because there's also less people. So your post might get more traction. And that's something that we've seen fairly consistently. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you. Have a good rest of your week. Do something nice for somebody else out there, and we'll catch up with you next Monday.
See you, Jake. See you, everybody.
See you, man.